Hey guys, so I'm back with another video. I'm going to go over solving systems of linear inequalities. So before we were doing systems of equations, and now we're going to be working with inequalities. So back a few lessons ago in Module 7, we talked about solving, just graphing linear inequalities, and now we're going to be solving a system of linear inequalities. So what we're going to be doing is graphing two inequalities on the same coordinate plane, and then we're going to look to see where the shading is overlapping. And so wherever your shading overlaps, that's going to be your solution. Okay, so I'm going to flip on over. I'm going to flip my camera over so you guys can see. I'm going to be pulling some random inequalities. I'll make some up and we'll go ahead and start graphing them. So hopefully you guys can follow along. And what you should have for this video is some graph paper and some pencils, or at least just one pencil actually. So graph paper and pencil, and that's basically it. Okay, so I'm going to flip you guys over now and we will get into this lesson. Alright, let me focus my camera. Alright, so actually before we do that, so first off, I'm going to, hold on, my camera's focusing here. Sorry guys, it's taking a little bit longer than it should. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write out an equation. So let's see, let's get, okay, if I have y is greater than or equal to -2, and then I have 4x, sorry, that looks like that's an ugly x, 4x plus y is greater than +2. Okay, so my first thing is, let me go ahead and identify my slopes and my intercepts. Okay, so over here, this top equation, you can see that there is no x, like in this bottom one, which means if there's no x, then that means that there's no slope. Remember, your slope is the coefficient of x. Okay, so this has no slope, none, okay, which means that this is going to be a horizontal line. Okay, and now my intercept is -2. That means that I'm going to have a horizontal line at the -2. Now for this equation, I need to rewrite it so it's in slope-intercept form. So I subtract my 4x from both sides. Okay, that cancels from here. I'm left with y is greater than or equal to -4x plus 2. Okay, now my slope for this line is -4, and my y-intercept is +2. Okay, so now notice that both of these have equal signs attached to them, so I'm going to have two solid lines. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and graph those on my grid here. So this is my y-axis. I've got my x-axis over here. My first line, remember, was at a -2, so 1, 2. And then let me go ahead and, I don't have a ruler with me. I can go ahead and use this. Okay, so I have a straight line at the -2. Okay, and that's a horizontal solid line. And then my second line had a y-intercept of +2 and a slope of -4. So I'm going to come down 4 and to the right 1. Okay, down 4 to the right 1. So this is my line here. And again, this one's going to be solid again. Oops. So this is a solid line here. And now I need to go ahead and figure out which way I'm going to be shading. Okay, so my first one here, if I use, first of all, sorry, let me switch back for a second. Okay, my origin right here, neither one of my lines is crossing my origin, which means I can use 0, 0 as my test point. Okay, so if I were to substitute 0 in for y, then I get a true statement. Okay, so a true statement means you shade in the direction of the origin, or sorry, in the direction of the test point, which in this case is my origin. So I'm going to, for this one, I'm going to shade upwards because my test point is up. So I'm just going to very lightly do a couple of lines going upwards so you guys can see that this one is shaded up. Okay? Now over here, for my second equation, if I have the 4x plus y, this was my original equation. If I substitute 0 for both of those, they cancel out and they're both 0. And this now is a false statement. So that means I'm going to shade away from my test point. So away from my test point, if my test point's here, I need to shade over in this direction. Okay? So that goes this way. And you can see where it intersects, okay, or where they overlap. So my solution for this inequality is just this section right here. Okay, so I'm just going to put an S there for solution. So even though they're shading down here and they're shading over here, this has nothing to do with the solution of the system. Okay, the green is a solution for this line and the red is a solution for this line, but it's not a solution for the system. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase and we'll do another question or another problem. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's do x plus y is less than 1. And let's try, I'm coming up with this one. This one's a random one. Minus y is, let's say, greater than or equal to 4. Okay, so now with the first equation, again, I need to rewrite this so that I have them, I can identify my slope and my intercept. So my first equation, I subtract y from both sides. So my first equation, I'll just put a 1 here, is y less than negative x plus 1, which means that my slope is negative 1 and my y-intercept is positive 1. And the second equation, I need to subtract 2x from both sides, so I'm left with negative y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. But now this negative here needs to go away. I need my y to be positive, so I divide everything by negative 1. And that cancels this out. Now I need to flip my inequality. This turns into a positive 2x, and this turns into a negative 4. So my slope here is positive 2, and my y-intercept is negative 4. Okay? So now, this line over here is going to be a dotted line because I don't have an equal sign with it. So that's going to be dotted. Okay, so my first line is dotted with a y-intercept at positive 1 and a slope of negative 1. So it's going this way. Okay, so now I'm going to make my little dotted line. Okay, and then my next line has a solid line starting at negative 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have a slope of positive 2, so up 2 to the right 1. Okay, and this one is going to be a solid line, so let me go ahead and use my ruler. Okay, so I have a ruler. I made my solid line. Okay, so that's what your graph looks like so far. Okay, so this was line 1 and this is line 2. Now I need to come back here and look to see where I'm going to shade. So my first line, if I use a test point, because neither one of these, as you can see, none of them are crossing through the origin, I can use the origin as my test point. So when I substitute into here 0, 0, I get 0 is less than 1, and that's a true statement. Okay, so I'm going to shade in the direction of my 0, 0. So line 1 is going to shade downward. Okay, that's my first line. Now my second line, again, if I use 0, 0, this turns into 0 greater than or equal to 4, and that's false. Okay, so I'm going to shade away from my test point. Okay, so in this case, this line is going to be shading away from the test point, so I'm going to shade downward. So I'm shading this direction here. Now again, you can see where the lines are overlapping or where the shading is overlapping. So your solution is that little triangle right here. Okay? So hopefully that makes some sense. Now I'm going to do a couple of parallel lines and then we will wrap up this video. If you understand how to graph a line and you understand the concept, then you can probably be okay with not continuing this video. However, if you want some help with parallel lines, because those can be a little bit tricky, then obviously keep on watching. Okay, so let's go ahead now and let's do some parallel lines. I'm going to give them to you written in slope-intercept form just because it'll be easier and it'll save us some time, but please make sure that you guys know how to rewrite an inequality from standard form to slope-intercept form. Okay, so if I have y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 1, and let's do y is less than 2x plus 1. Okay, so this is going to be a solid line, this is going to be a dotted line. So my slope for both of them is 2, as you can see, and my y-intercept is -1 here and +1 here. Okay, so now let's go ahead, and my first one was -1 and slope of 2, and that was a solid line. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect my points. And so that's my line. And now my next line is going to be starting at +1 with the same slope. This time it's going to be a dotted line. So I'm going to go ahead and just plot a couple of points here so I have a better guide. Okay, and so I have lines going up this way. Alright, and so you get the idea. They're obviously not touching. Okay, now if I use my 0, 0 test point, because they're close to the origin but they're not touching the origin, I can still use it. Okay, my first line, I get 0 is greater than or equal to -1, and that is true. Okay, and then my second one, I get 0 is less than +1, and this is also true. So they are both being shaded in the direction of the test point. So this line is shading this way and this line is shading this way. So they end up overlapping right here in the middle. Okay, so your solution is just that middle piece, because the solid line, which is line number 1, okay, my solid line, which is line number 1, ends up shading upwards. Okay, so it's going to be from here all the way this way. Okay, and then my dotted line, since it was also true, it's going to go from the dotted line but down this way. So where they overlap, if this line is going up and this line is going down, they're overlapping right in the middle. Okay, so your solution is just going to be that little piece right down the middle. Okay, now let's go ahead and try another one. Alright, so if I have y is greater than -x minus 4, and let's try y is greater than -x minus 1. Actually, let's make this a +4. Okay, so now I have slopes of -1 with the y-intercept of 4, and this one is a -1 with a y-intercept of -1. Okay, these are both going to be dotted lines. So now my first one had an intercept of 4, so let's go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a slope of -1, so we're going to go down 1 to the right 1, so these are going in this direction here, and they're both going to be dotted, so let's go ahead and start doing those dashes. Okay, so you get the idea. That's your line there. And then my next one is going to be starting at the -1 and going down 1 and to the right 1. Okay, so again, you can see that they are not going to intersect. These are parallel. Okay, now again, neither one of those is touching the origin. So let's go ahead and see. So my very first one, which was my top line, let me move this up a little bit. My top line, if I go ahead and do a 0, 0 here, I get 0 is greater than positive 4, and that's false. So my top line is going to be shading away from 0, 0, so that's going to be shading upwards. Okay? And now my bottom line, I end up getting 0 is greater than negative 1, and that's true. So I'm going to shade in the direction of 0, 0. Okay, so my bottom line is here, and I'm shading in the direction of 0, 0, so I'm shading upwards also. But now where are they overlapping? They're overlapping up in this top section here. Okay, so they are intersecting up at the top, not in the middle. So the section is only this top piece here. Okay, so not anywhere here in the middle. So it's basically, if you get asked on your EOC, what is your solution? They're asking for a more specific answer. They're looking for you to specify that your solution is only the solution for the top equation, which is this top part here. Okay, which is the y is greater than negative x plus 4. Okay, so hopefully this video helped you guys out. I will try to make a video for all of Module 9 soon, maybe some practice for just systems of equations. So go ahead and thumbs up this video if it helped you. Let me know in the comments down below if this is helpful, or if there's anything else that you'd like me to answer, or if there's something you'd like to see. With that being said, I hope you guys do well on your future tests. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye.